Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. And in this tutorial, this real beginners tutorial, we're going to discuss the modify panel from this home tab. So without further ado guys, now welcome back guys. Now we have discussed in my last video the draw panel. Now we move on to the modify panel of these series of beginners tutorial. Now let us draw a circle to start with, to have something to start with. Now the modified panel, after you have draw shapes and stuff, the modified panel is basically, as it says it for itself, is to modify objects you have already drawn. Now let us see, let us start with this circle. This circle doesn't matter, this circle is just to use as an example to use something to modify, to be able to modify something. And let us draw this line through this circle as to have also as a reference. So now, first of all, the move command moves objects basically. Now, first of all, you have to select the object that you want to move, and you can add multiple objects to this move function. It will continue adding on no matter how much times you click, and then you press the space bar. Now it is asking you to displacement to basically it asking you how do you want to move it. You want to then select a point or your base point and then move it to wherever you want to. And of course you would have to, let's say it again, click again wherever you want to move it. Press U and then spacebar for undo. And you can also use the move command, spacebar, and displacement. That is just basically, it is displacing from your 0 point. So here you can then say, well, I want to displace it 1 comma 2 comma 0, and it will displace it 1 to the X direction, 2 in the Y direction, and 0 in the Z direction. So that is your displacement. So basically, there's two ways to use the move command. Now we have a copy command, and you can then click C for copy, and then it asks you which objects you want to copy. You can select both of them or one, and it will continue adding just like the move command. So this command, it hasn't done anything yet. You can just select, it's the same, select a multiple objects, however objects you want. So you have to click, either right click and press, well, right click basically for it to continue with a command, or press spacebar. I just right click, so it's now asking me to specify the base point that you want to move it to. And then if I select the center, the copy, sorry, you can then copy and continue copying as much as you like until you right click and press enter, or press spacebar basically. And the same way like the move command, you can use your displacement to 0 0.0. Oh, sorry, that was your base point. So now your displacement point, so your second point would be 0 0.0. And it will stay in the same, it will be on top of each other, of course, because the first time it automatically selects 0 0.0, and if you displace it to the same point, of course it will be again in the same location. But it did copy it even though it was on top of each other. I just used the move command just now to show you guys that it was on top of each other. So now let us delete it. Now let us use the copy command one more time, And this time I want to select the base point as my center and then see what is more options do we have right here. So it is asking first of all to specify the second point, or you can then use an array. And what an array does, a number of items you want to array. I want to array 4 items. As you can see, it is making, actually the first item would be of course a base item. And now the direction it will array. And of course the distance that I am selecting is the distance between the objects. So that is copying the object in an array, or you can click on, you can either decide the distance or the measurements. You can type in 100 or whatever you like. As you can see, my dynamic input or my cursor is showing me the distance that I have, or you can fit it to a specific length. As you can see, it is from start to finish a specific length. Or you can go back to array and then type in the distance between the first and the second one, and fit is the first and the last one. And then you right click and press enter. And here we have it, a copy of 4 items of the first one. So that was the copy command. Now you have the stretch command, and the stretch command, it speaks for itself. You then select the object you want to stretch. And then of course you have to click on spacebar because you can select multiple objects to stretch at once. And now it is asking you to specify the base point to stretch right here. And here you can see it is stretching the whole thing. Now stretch command, you can then select right here, and then it will stretch only this part. And then if I right click, now you can stretch only this part instead of stretching the whole thing. So you can either stretch an area with this one, space bar, and then stretch, or you can stretch the whole thing, which is actually the move command, in other words, to stretch this up or down. But that is just moving the whole object. So you have many ways of stretching by crossing this part right here, space bar, and then click and click. That is how you use your stretch command. Rotate, you select the object you want to rotate. Multiple objects are also available. Space bar, the base point, and you just rotate. Now the rotation has a couple things that you can select. You can select then the rotation angle, which it is asking you for right now, the angle you want to rotate. If you want 45 degrees, you just type in 45 and it will rotate it 45. Now you can also rotate it by and copy and rotate. So it is still asking you for the angle, but this time it will leave the original line and copy and rotate the new line. So if I do 45, as you can see, it 45 degrees that way. It rotated it 45 degrees and copied it at the same time. So now let us select it again, spacebar, base point, and now let us say reference. Now reference means that it will rotate it depending on the reference you want to have. So first of all, by the reference, it is asking you to select your first reference point, and then your second point, and then this is your angle basically, and then you can then select your angle. It has to be, or your direction, it has to be rotated to. This would be handy, let's say if I had a square or a rectangle. Ooh, the chamfer. We have to remove these chamfers. Chamfer 0, and 0. So let's say we have this square right here. Oh, rotation. We had it set, remember? It was set to 10. Let us set it to 0 again. Okay, now we have this square. Now, if you want to align this square to this line right here, there's two ways to do this. You can either rotate it, but if you rotate it, you can, okay, by chance this was already 45 degrees, so it's basically snapping to 45 degrees, but it's not all the time that you have lines that are 45 degrees angle. So let us just act like this is not snapping. So what you can do is then click on reference and then this point as first point and then your second point, and then I want to make it align to this point right here. So that is your reference rotation. Basically rotating your object to reference a specific other object. Now a mirror line is very straightforward. You select your object, press space. The line you want to mirror, so you can either mirror this way, that way, all kind of angles. It is available in this mirror line. So now you just select the first line, this first point of your mirror line, and then the second point of your mirror line. Now it is asking you if you want to erase the original or object, yes or no. So by default, it is selected to no. So you can just press space and then it would leave this object right where it is and it will mirror this new one as a new object. Or you can mirror this one to this side and delete it and don't add in. It will just mirror this object to the other side instead of adding object to the other side. So we go select yes, and as you see, it mirrored it, but it did not add, and it did not leave the old one. It did not add it, it just mirrored it, the original object. Now we will do the same mirror line, and this time we will select no, and it leaves both objects available. Now we have our scale. Again, select objects you want to scale and select your base point, and then you can scale by just dragging, or you can then say you want to copy the scale. So just like the first time rotate, it will add a scale object plus it will add the scale object to new objects. So it will copy your old objects and then scale the new ones, and it will leave the old one just as it is. So now if we scale it to 2, a factor of 2, as you can see, it has my two old objects are still here and my new objects has been scaled. So we have 4 new objects, basically 4 objects instead of just the 2. So that is a copy. Or if you did not choose copy, it will scale those original objects and these 2 new ones will not have appeared. You can also reference scale. Let's say you want to scale these lines down to this circle. So let us delete the first big ones. Select these, scale, base point, and then now we want to, let's say extremely small scale factor ignored, okay? Wait, one more time. Scale, base point, reference. So now it is asking us for the base point of, or the length of our line. So I want to scale this line from here to here down to here. So you see it scaled both lines down to this line. So whatever that factor was, it didn't matter. I just wanted to scale down to this part right here. So instead of stretching it down, sometimes you have a whole object that you just want to scale down to fit a specific area. Now we have our trim item or command, and trim is basically you select what do you want to trim or the part you want to trim, and then you click on space and then the crossing. Oh, sorry, the other way around. You select your trim item. You select then the object until which object you want to trim it to. Press space and then the part that you want to trim. So you will see this X appear, so you can either trim the left side or the right side. I will trim the right side. So basically the first object you select is your trim line, and then the second object is your trim or the part that you want to trim. It works the same way with length. Now let us draw a circle outside of the box, outside of this circle, so you can see extend. Now extend is basically the same. I want to extend this line to this circle. So you select first a circle, click on space, and then extend the line to the circle and then press again space. And just as the other objects, space, and then see it gives even you a preview so that you can see. If you go on this side, it previews, it's extended to the bottom and extended to the top. And you have also a fence, a crossing, a project edge. You can select these, you can explore these other options so that you can use extend basically a frame. And yeah, basically it's very easy to use. You would just have to extend it to a specific object. Just make sure you do it in the right order, which is to select the extended line or the extended object you want to extend it to, and then extend the object itself. Now fillet is basically you use this mostly for a square. Now you can fillet it. First of all, you select the fillet command, and right now it is set to radius 0. So first of all, you would have to set your radius. Let us set my radius to 2 millimeters, and this will be constant all the time until you change it again. Now you have to select your first line and then your second line, and you can see it adds an arc to my rectangle. You can also trim the lines. Let's say if you want to add a radius and then trim the line one time. So trim mode option, trim, no trim, yes, trim. You see it trimmed the line and then added this radius or this fillet right here around this part of the circle. So it trimmed and added a radius at once, basically. So let us see what else we have. Multiple, let's see what this does. Basically multiple ends, I guess. Multiple basically works the same way. Now we have a chamfer, and the chamfer works the same way. It is set to 0.0, meaning 0 direction A and direction B. But of course, you would have to then decide to set these first. So let us select the first distance to 2, press spacebar, and then the second direction, they automatically fill it to 2. You can either press OK again or spacebar again, so it will be the same length, or you can then type a different length and press spacebar. So now you can see that the first distance is 2 and the second distance is 3. So now you can then select your two corners, and then it adds a chamfer of 2 millimeters, 2 and 3 millimeters, the Y3. That is also important how to read your measuring tool. It helps. So here you can see in the X direction, it is 2 millimeters. It is -2 because it is going the opposite direction. and in the x direction, sorry, and in the y direction is going up, so it is positive, and that's why it is 3. And the z direction is 0 because we did not move up, we just stayed flat. And then the distance, meaning the line between here and here, the points we just selected, is 3.6, which is calculated from the tangent from these two, basically. So that was it for our chamfer, very easy. And the blend curves, let us see. This one works properly. But we cannot blend those curves together. Maybe this and this one, also neither. So let us see what the blend curve basically does. Creates a tangent smooth spline. Oh, basically, this is used mostly for the spline. So since we had a spline that we drew earlier, let me just draw a new spline to be able to use this tool. Enter. Now here we can see a very sharp edge for the spline. So here we can then select these two corners. Blend an entity with itself at a specific location. Oh, we have to select the second object. So basically blending two splines together. Yep, as you can see, these is two separate splines that you blend together. So let us do this one. And then let's say we have a second spline. Now we can blend these two together. Select and select. The only thing is, I think you have to set also your continually smooth. Yes. I guess this is already smooth as it says. Cannot blend this object. So it cannot blend those two objects together. Why is that? I guess because it is two next to each other. Okay, I know what it means now. So basically, if you have two separate splines, it will then blend it together as one. Now here we go. So it adds or it connects these two splines. Maybe the best word instead of blend, it just should have just said connect. It would have worked much better. It would have explained things much better. So those, even though I know a lot of AutoCAD, as you can see, these commands I don't use much, but those pop-up menus help a lot. As you can see, it selected the first plan and the second plan, and then it added the red part to it. So even though you forgot like how to use it, just by hovering over the command, you can see what you have to do basically to draw it properly. Then we have a rectangular array, and that just means array of this object. Click next, and then it arrays it for you. And right here you can add, you can select how much columns you want, how much rows, 12 rows, and the distance between the rows, let's see, 2 millimeters distance between them, and how much total I want, 10. So 10 objects, and then it will divide it for you. And the same thing is for the columns. Here you can just add how much total you want, 3 columns, and the distance between the columns or the total amount. So here we have 130. So the distance will be 65. So it calculates it for you automatically. And then the levels, let's see, level. I That's in the height, of course, and then the distance between the height, basically vertically. So let's see, let's say 4 levels, and the distance between the levels will be 10. As you can see, so this is in your X, in your Z direction. So this is basically your Z direction. The rows would be your Y direction, and the columns will be your X direction. And that's how you make your array. If you close it, then here you can always edit it as you like. Here we have the same options we just had. You can just modify it, even this modify tab up here, to edit it as you like. Now we have the array in a path, so it will array an object. We will delete this array right here. And basically, if I had this spline right here, and let's add an object, a little circle right here. So this is my path. Sorry. First of all, select your object here, right here. Press space and then your path. And right here, you can select how much objects you want. And basically, let's see. The distance between it will be 3 millimeters. And then it will just add how much objects it needs to fill in to have a distance of 3 millimeters, or 10, and it needs 5 objects for a distance of 10 millimeters. So that is drawing your array with a path. Now we have a polar array, and that's basically just drawing an array in a polar direction. So instead of a, let's see, select your object, okay, enter. The center of your polar line, let's say right here, and you see it arrays it, and here you can add how much objects you like, 8, and or the angle between the objects, or the full circle, or a half a circle, 180 degrees only, and it will add 8 objects to it. So that's about that for the, and the erase command basically just erase, select your object and then press spacebar and it will erase it. Explode, this is basically when, let's say you have this spline right here and this spline is closed. So this is a closed object. Now, if I selected explode, I will select that object, click next, and then it will explode it. Oh, it did not explode this one. Let us just draw a box then. Explode, press enter, and then it will explode all my whole polyline into separate lines. That is the opposite of what my boundary did. Now it exploded my objects into all separate loose objects. And offset basically is offset your object, we like basically offset. So specify the offset distance. So first of all, I would like it to be 10 millimeters offset. And then I want to offset this object, and then you have to select the direction you have to offset and just click and it will offset for you. And you can continue offsetting this object until you press escape. You can also offset by clicking one point and then moving it down to that point. That is your distance. So now if I offset it, it is the distance I just told it to offset. You can also offset true. So here, offset object, and it will offset it until wherever you want to place it. And you can continue offsetting it through, so adding more objects as you go. And erase means you offset it. So erase the source object. Yes, of course, I want to erase it. And now you have to choose a distance, 10 millimeter. And I wanted to offset 10 millimeters. So, and it erases it automatically too. So this is a setting that is set to yes now, but I can just set it back to no. And offset the layer is basically enter a layer option for offset objects. So current, select object to offset, the same 10 millimeters. So that is basically offset. So you can use offset to draw multiple lines in a direction. Let's see, set to by layer. So you can specify which properties are changed by layer. So changes the property overrides of selected objects by layer. This is working with layers. So then you select that object and then change it to by layer. I guess everything will be by layer. Let us see, change space, moves object between model space and paper space. Okay. So this will then move your object, so this object to my paper space. Command not allowed in model shape tab. Okay, so you can just add it to let's go to my paper space. I guess you have to go here and then yep, it works now. So now this is your paper space, and your paper space basically a drawing of whatever you're drawing in your model space. This is your model space. So in your model space, you can then draw whatever you want to draw. And now in your paper space, then you can let the customer see what you drew. So then here you can choose what you show, which parts you show of your drawing. Now what we just did was, let's see, if you double click in your viewport, this is your viewport, so a view of your model space. And what we did is that line that was right here, we moved it to our paper space. So instead of it being in our model space, which is our drawing, it moved to our paper. So that is why you double click inside your model space and you move that line to your paper space. So now it is not in your model anymore. It is now on your paper. You can also select that part and send it back to your model space. And as now that if you select it, it's not anymore in your paper space, but it is now in your model space. So basically that's it. Length, and change the length of an object and include angles and arcs. So here we can then select the length of your object. Okay, select the object to measure, or so let us do this one more time. Select an object to change. So as you can see, it changes. So the first time is you select the object you want, the length that you want to have for an object. Then you press space. The total length is now 16, okay? And then you want to then lengthen that object to the length that you want it to be. So the first, you select the object you want to, select an object to measure, okay? select the total length, okay, and then select the object you would like to change. So basically it is matching the length of this object to a different object. So instead of measuring it and then drawing that object all over again, this line all over again, it is actually um, lengthening this object to match the length of this object. So let us see what will happen if we join this object all together. So this has a total length of 71. So now let us see. Let's say you would like this line to have that total length. So then you can use for whatever reason. So then you select this object, specify the total length, yes, and then now you can now lengthen that object. But that was that line. So why is it not selecting the total length? The current length is 71 and a half. Enter. The weird part is you can select the total length, but then it is asking you 2 times to select the total length. So I want to select the total length. This is my object that I want to select. So the total length would be 71.845, I guess. And then now you can lengthen it. Why AutoCAD asked me the same question twice, I don't know. Now let us see, this one is edit the polyline. So edits polylines and 3D meshes. So here we can select your polyline. You can then open it, join it. The width you can change. You can make it fit. You can turn it into a spline, decurve it, line type, reverse or undo. So basically we can then say the width and specify the new width for all segments. Okay, let us do 10. Oh, that's the width of the line. So 10 millimeter of the width. So the width of your line. That is basically it. So it's basically to change different properties of your polyline. Now we have, let's see what's next. Edit hatch. So after you have a hatch, you can then edit it like how I showed you before. But basically, if I already have a hatch, let's say this hatch right here, and I selected it, I can also edit it right here. So this is more like an old command from AutoCAD that is not really necessary, because if I do this, edit hatch, this pop-up menu will pop up, but the same thing happened when I just selected it. It's the same thing. So you can either just select it and then this edit hatch or hatch editor would appear and then you will do the same thing, or you can just right click and press hatch edit and this will pop up. It's basically the same command that we had right here. Some commands in AutoCAD are very redundant. Like right here again, we have an edit array, but if you just select your array, this edit property will appear, or you could just select your array and then go to your home and click edit array. And then here we can then enter different options like the amount of items we want. Now we have that we just say I want 4 items instead of, oh, it just added one more to it. Basically the same things that are here The 4 is the distance between the items. I forgot this is a path, so it does not work with items. It does not give you option. That was mostly for when we had option to decide how much left and how much right, the columns. But in this case, since we have a path, you cannot decide how much items you have, but just the distance between the items. So here we select 10, then it would just say, well, maximum 5 items. So these extra commands are very basically the same. Like here we have a align tool. So if we want to align this line to this square right here, so select the object that we want to align. Okay. So at the first source, specify the first source point. So this is the source and the destination right here. And this is the second point and the destination is right here. And then press enter. Do you want object baseline to align? So you could either align, scale the object based on alignment point. So basically, do you want to make this item the same length of this item, or do you just want to align it and leave it the length it is right now? So right now it is set to no. I will leave it to no, and now it just aligns it and it does not make it shorter. So that is the align object. Break means it breaks a line into segment. So now I press break, and now I can then break this line either this way or that way, or just break it right in the middle. This is very precise, so just break it right there and click OK. Now it breaks that line in 2 segments, and how you just saw, you can break it and shorten it at the same time. And this one, it breaks at a point, let's say in the middle, and it just breaks it. You cannot shorten it, it just breaks it at a specific point. Let us see what is next. Reverse. Reverse the direction of a line. Polyline spline of object. So this is that direction. Let us reverse it. It has been reversed. So the direction, instead of going that way, it gone this way. So let us see. What can I use that make this more specific? Let us see. This is going that direction. So here you can see it is very clear. In this example, it is going the other direction now. It's because that one was very specific, very clear to see. Copy nested items. So nested items are within a block. Unfortunately, I don't have a block right now to show you what it really does. Let us see, where can I get a block right now? So let me insert a block from somewhere. Let me just use this one. Okay. So now let us go into copy. So select a nested object to copy this object right here. It is in my block. It is nested in my block. So now I click on next, and then your base point, of course, and then your displacement point. So even though this block has this object within it, I can copy that item without having to go and open in my block and then copying it and then bringing it outside. You can just copy it directly from within your block. So that is copying your selected item, and this is delete duplicated objects. So from all duplicated objects it has, you can delete. So select objects, okay, and here you can decide what is for you duplicate. So ignore objects properties, like ignore that the same color. So one overlapping object, or so one object was overlapping, the and it had 0 duplicated objects basically. So nothing was deleted because these are exactly the same. So now if I copy this, copy, CO for copy, you can also type in your command line your shortcuts. And I selected these two, duplicated. It was not duplicated because they are in a different part. So ignore the location. The tolerance is 0.0000. So if it is 100,000 of a millimeter bigger, it is not a duplicate. So I wanted to ignore my location, but it does not have the option to ignore my location. So basically it would have to be exactly in the same location, exactly the same length. Let us see. It still isn't exactly the same. Okay, they are basically on top of each other. So now if I click it OK, it deleted one object. If I delete this one, as you can see, the other one that was on top of it was deleted because it is exactly the same. And this is just your drawing order. You can then send things front, back, bring above a specific object, send under a specific object. And this one is just actually just select the object you want to bring forward, click OK, and it will just bring it front. There is nothing to bring up front of, so this is very hard to see. And this one is just bring above a specific item. So select this item, click spacebar, and then select I want to bring above this item, press spacebar. So now it's on top of that item. How can you see this? Because if I select it, it is on top. But if I send it backwards, send under item, and now I select it. Now I'm selecting first this item because this one is on top of that one. So that is in general what is sent to back. And the text is the same thing, dimensions the same way. You can bring dimensions front and back and send hatch to the back instead of in front of your objects. So that was the tab panel. I know it was very quick, but you just have to use it so that you can learn stuff. I was just demonstrating how to use it, and we will continue in my next tutorial with your annotation panel. So I will see you next time in my next video, and I would suggest just try drawing. So the first video using a draw, and then the next video, and then with this video using the modify tab to modify those objects that you drew based from the first tutorial I just showed you guys. And I will see you next time in my annotation panel tutorial. Bye for now, guys.